No, it's not working. They are trying to silence us.
Hello?
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
Now it's working.
Excellent.
If you can take your seat, we can start with the next session. Pablo,
Yep.
please.
Thank you so much. OK, we will continue with a little delay than planned, but still, I think we are on the right track. You are having, again, a double bill of Marco and me. This is like a dream team. We are like, I don't know, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, or Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, something that Italians might recognize. They can make a movie about us, being moderators over and over again together. Just buying some time before we start the next session, which is concerning case histories and national experience against theft of medicines. And it is really my great pleasure to announce the next speakers. But before that, and this is very important, I was informed by the organizer that you have to sign the sheet at the entrance. So if you didn't do that, please do it, because it's important for reimbursement. So signature tutti at the entrance. This is very, very important, and please do it in the next break if you haven't done that as well so far. So without further ado, we have Raquel Alonso from AMMC. So this is the Spanish agency relevant to the issues that we're talking about today, very similar to AIFA. And Raquel is a pharmacist like myself, and this is also very appropriate because we are in this pharmaceutical college, this beautiful place, a temple of pharmacy. And she's a technician in the field of illegal medicines, but she has been working and loving working as a pharmacist before that. And I'm sure that she will use her practical experience and her experience in the Spanish National Regulatory Authority to share more information about the national experience on theft of medicine in her country. Raquel, please.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this session. My name is Raquel, and I work as a technician in the illegal medicines area in the Spanish Agency of Medicines and Medical Devices. I will start describing our department and how we work. And then I'll explain the procedure we have established for reporting theft, losses, or misuse. And finally, I'll present a case involving sildenafil. Okay. This area belongs to the Pharmaceutical Inspection and Enforcement Department. Our activities include making expert reports, investigating illegal websites, resolving queries, conducting inspection, generating alerts, and providing assistance as a judicial expert, and collecting, analyzing, and investigating information related with theft, losses, and misuse. Okay, the Spanish Agency of Medicines and Medical Devices has implemented a procedure which is available in the following link in our website. And the principal objective is to ensure that we have access to the most comprehensive and up-to-date information regarding theft, losses, or misuse. This information is crucial for us to be able to take appropriate protective measures. The communication of these events is mandatory in accordance to this royal decree. As you can see in the screen, they have to inform to the competent authorities where appropriate to the marketing authorization holder. Any suspect or when they receive or are offered, when they suspect maybe falsify. And for example, also they have to report any fact or suspicion or when they are aware concerning the misuse of medicinal products. All the stakeholders involved should complete an Excel file with relevant data. As you can see, for example, the name of the medicine, batch number, location, the number of units, and in some cases, it's highly recommended that they are notified to the police. Regarding the timing of notification, it's highly recommended to do as soon as possible and after the initial collection of available data. It's common for them to notify us while they are conducting their own internal investigation and implementing corrective measures, and later communicate the results to us, and especially if the units have been located. They should communicate any theft, losses, or any other behaviors suggesting diversion to illicit trafficking or misuse. In addition to this procedure, the Technical Committee of Inspection, is a group where all the regional communities are represented, and they has published a document. And in this document, they propose a set of medicines to be monthly evaluated and for the detection of possible unusual sales or this kind of topic. For example, pseudoephedrine and pregabalin are included in this document. You can see the document in this link. We have a platform for exchanging information with the regional authorities. We create different folders for different cases. And in Spain, there are 70 regional authorities, and they are responsible of verifying the GDP's compliance. The principal objective is to be able to detect attempts of reintroduction into the legal supply chain. Well, and last but not least, I'm going to tell you a case that happened in Spain. The entity concerned is TOWA Pharmaceuticals. It's a company that is in Spain. I think it's in Barcelona. And they reported a case because the manager of the warehouse, TOWA is a marketing authorization holder. And they reported a case in June because the warehouse manager discovered that 198 units of sildenafil were missing. And then, you can see the presentation is in the left side. And, the company reported to the police, and we reported to the regional communities. And when they report to the police, the locker had not been forced, there were no camera, and obviously there could be a worker involved. When we finally conclude the case, we found out that the incident had happened in the customer area, and the company decided to implement the following measures to avoid this problem in the future. And the measures were in the next slide. Yeah. The first one is that control access area will prepare doses of sildenafil. In second place, stocks will be stored in the control access area, and with a daily manual count verified against the automatic computer system. And the last one, they decide to review all internal procedures and to establish additional safety measures if needed. Thank you very much, and don't hesitate to ask if you have any question. I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Raquel. I will now call on Sadie Dye from MHRA, which is the UK equivalent of AIFA. And talking about Sadie, she's a senior manager in the criminal enforcement unit. By education, she's an intelligence officer. And previously to coming to MHRA, she was working for 15 years in the law enforcement. So we are having a very safe environment here. We have a lot of law enforcement people, which is making me safe, and I hope you as well. Sadie, please take it away.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. As I've been introduced, my name is Sadie Dye, and I'm from the Criminal Enforcement Unit with the MHRA, which is the UK Medicines and Medical Devices Regulator. I'm here today just to talk to you about our national experience, really, of the MEDI-crime theft picture in the UK. So here at the MHRA, excuse me one second, just twizzle those a little bit. Our sort of remit and mandate within the Criminal Enforcement Unit is to prevent offending where we can, disrupt offending where we can't, and enforce on offenders where we absolutely should and could. And we divide our priorities to 3 strategic areas, as you can see outlined on the slide. We look at falsified medicines illegally entering the UK regulated supply chain. We look at the illegal supply of the most harmful UK licensed medicines and the illegal supply of the most harmful unlicensed medicines. So what is the UK current picture around medicrime theft? So the majority of our offences are reported really from HGV or large vehicle thefts that occur on arterial routes in the UK, so primarily large vehicles transporting medicines across motorways in the UK. Criminals are clearly exploiting those vulnerabilities in those road networks, and the offences tend to be overnight or throughout an extended period of rest by the lorry drivers. The larger the theft, the smaller the number of the medicine types stolen, and overall you can see the most common medicines that are stolen in the UK. They tend to be Botox, Biscadil and Pregabalin. We also believe, as that has been shared by colleagues throughout the morning, that there is at present what we would say an unquantified threat around conniving professionals or sort of insider threat within industry. So what do we think in the UK are those key drivers of the medicrime threat? So we believe, as I'm sure colleagues also believe, that there is a high financial gain, and that is a really large driver for the bulk of the organised crime groups that participate in this area of criminality. The thefts are for onward supply and distribution in the UK, but I think it's fair to say that that goes across Europe and internationally as well. It's perhaps that we don't at present see those data sets from colleagues in Europe and beyond to fully understand that wider distribution network. And there's a limited information at this moment in time to really understand the sort of addictiveness of the medicines that are stolen. It would appear as though legal supply chain medicines are the preferred medicines that are stolen, and they often appear for sale online. That is what we see in the UK as our primary outlet for these stolen medicines, is they appear for sale online. In the UK, as I'm sure in a lot of colleagues' countries, data collection is very difficult for us. We have 42 police forces who all collect theft data very differently and also record it very differently. So for us here at the MHRA, as a national regulator, it's very difficult for us to bring that data together and fully understand it and understand it on a national level. That is a real challenge for us. Industry also have a duty to inform us of thefts, but there really is no threshold for that sort of informing, so it makes it very difficult again for us to fully understand that UK national picture. As you can see, that leads us to have some key intelligence gaps currently around the MEDI-THEFT picture in the UK. Primarily, the full extent of it, who is responsible for it, and the onward supply. So what do we do within the MHRA and the Criminal Enforcement Unit to really try and tackle this problem? First of all, we think relationship building is absolutely key, and that's both nationally within the UK with our other law enforcement colleagues, but also internationally. As I've said, I think at the minute we all hold data pots that will absolutely show a bigger picture if we share and work together to fully understand the threat. We look at something called diversion analysis, which I'll touch on the next slide. We try to enhance our use of technology, and we try to innovate and build better technology to fully understand the MEDI-THEFT threat and how we can best tackle it. And we look at batch number analysis. Batch number analysis, you can see an example outlined on the slide. We essentially collate batch numbers of all notified thefts of medicines that are reported to us either through industry or through local police or other law enforcement agencies. We run those against batch numbers that we become aware of batches where we've either done a test purchase or where we've seized medicines, and try to understand where batches have been stolen from and where they're starting to appear. Have they appeared in a warrant that we've executed or a raid that we've done? Have they appeared on a website that we've purchased some medicines from? So we can start to understand where medicines are going missing from, and then where they're popping up and where that outlet is to better inform that intelligence picture. And that's really effective for us, and we've identified some quite significant organised crime groups that are operating in the UK, both from the theft of the medicines right the way through to the actual sale of them again online illegally. So next steps. For us, it's really important that we keep trying to be innovative and we keep trying to tackle the MEDI-THEFT problem. So we're looking at improving our analytical software. We feel that data analysis is a real driver in actually better understanding the MEDI-THEFT picture and better understanding how to tackle it. So we are investing in our analytical software to analyse the data that I've spoken about, particularly the batch number analysis, but also better analysis of the data sets that we hold of criminals that we've come across throughout our day-to-day work, so we can really start to have a deep dive into these organised crime groups and hopefully identify either other groups operating within the network or other weaknesses within the sort of crime chain of the MEDI-THEFT industry. We're looking at our online piece. We take our online piece really seriously. We recognise that the outlet for a lot of stolen medicines is in the online space. So we're trying to tackle that head on to sort of nip that outlet in the bud. And we're doing that by working with a number of industry partners, nationally and internationally, as well as other law enforcement agencies, to try and take down illegal fake pharmacy websites, and to try and just really safeten that online space for the UK public and UK patients of healthcare. And we look at diversion and batch number analysis. We build that into our daily business, so we regularly refresh the batch numbers that we know of against the stolen batch numbers to highlight that chain. With diversion analysis, we've recently reached out to over 500 pharmaceutical companies asking for their data. We will then wash that across our distribution and ultimate supply data to try and identify those individuals in that chain that are over-ordering medicines that ultimately will be diverted out of the legal supply chain. That's something we intend to do on a sort of a monthly into a 3-monthly basis, and just keep pushing that diversion analysis so that we are starting to push through the organised crime groups that sit behind the MEDI-crime picture. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. I will now call on Markus Wittstock from BfArM, which is German National Regulatory Authority, and Markus is chairperson of Working Group of Enforcement Officer as well. He's a biologist and doctor of natural sciences, and I can say in the VGO he's been more than welcoming, not only for EU member states, but also to myself and other representatives of other authorities, as he's the nicest guy possible. So Markus, take it away.
Very much for this nice introduction, and may I have my first slide, please? And also thank you very much, Domenico Di Giorgio, for inviting me, and he is a really good delegate of our VGO because he contributes really a lot and has a lot of subject there. oops, yeah. We were founded, first I tell you a little bit about Veggio. We were founded in 2007, and we are a group of the heads of medicines agencies of the EU. So we are really EU focused, and we have twice a year meetings where we discuss cases, procedures, and general things. Our mission is to ensure adherence to the regulations of the manufacturing and distribution chains of medicinal products and disrupt illegal activities and, of course, share information. I think it's special about our group that we are not only international but also multidisciplinary, because we are DRAs from enforcement units, pharmacovigilance, GMP, GDP inspectors, lab, but also we have police officers and customs in our group. For example, Carabinieri is regularly at our meetings. We have delegates from all EU member states, and we have observers like Serbia. Pavel is also a very good friend from our group. We have partners, and you see also at our partners, we have Europol and Interpol within our group, so there's also a strong connection to law enforcement. And we are a network for trust building. We share experiences and knowledge, and we do practical training. We have also 4 subgroups, and it's wholesale and distribution, internet sales, falsified medicines risk, and training and education. For this topic, the most important workstream is workstream 1, wholesale and distribution, because it is dealing with the legal supply chain, and we try there to identify the gaps that might be in the EU distribution chains. And I would also like to mention the last point, EU serialization, because we found out that sometimes it's useful for theft cases, but sometimes it's not, because the product is not marked, and the people who have lost product really do not know which serialization codes are missing, and so you also cannot block these products sometimes, but sometimes it works out. But the system as a whole is not working completely so far. So here are the Veggio activities concerning theft cases. Domenico mentioned already the Italian or the MEDI-THEFT case in 2014, which led to the Operation Volcano, led by the Italian IFA, and also Austria was very much involved. We had a training concerning the FACER project, which was made by Domenico Di Giorgio. I will talk about the Luna Farm case a little bit, the Enbrel Keytruda case, where medicines diverted in Romania were sold to the Netherlands and Germany. And we had a training already, short training, on the MEDI-THEFT project in our last meeting in Uppsala. And of course, we have the Veggio Rapid Alert System for the illegal supply chain, where falsifications in the illegal supply chain are reported, illegal products with undeclared API, but also important theft cases. Domenico mentioned already the Operation Volcano. Let me just go quick over it. It started in Germany with this MEDI-THEFT case, where MEDI-THEFT vials contained fluid instead of powder, and this was actually the starting point for this case. But then it was found out that via this network, this criminal network, a lot of stolen goods, thefts were sold, and used falsified paper, and a number of member states were involved, which were all also members of Veggio. A lot of medicinal products were touched, and a lot of batches affected, and well, the main thing were the theft cases in the end. And we were really wondering high the risk is for the patients because the medications were concerning different indications, but also cooling chain. Some needed cooling chain, and you don't know if this was really met. So the supply chains were in this case long, international, and parallel trade was also involved in these supply chains, and it was really difficult to control the fake distribution documents and the compliance of the cold chain. Well, in the end, it was really useful to have networks and to exchange information, and so we also discussed already about a database for thefts. And I would also like to mention this lessons learned booklet that was produced by Domenico and other colleagues of the VEGGIO. Now the German perspective. Germany, we are a federal state, so we have federal authorities and local authorities. We have a relative strict separation between DRA, police, and customs competences. It's not like in the MHRA or the HPRA or Swissmedic or the IFAR. And so the sharing of information concerning theft cases is really difficult because we have not only local DRAs, but also local polices. I must also say in Germany that the Federal Ministry of Health has a high priority for the legal supply chain and to keep this safe. And normally the big theft cases, they are involving organized crime, and it's difficult to elucidate and to find out which products are stolen. And in Germany, when the legal supply chain is hit, we have always a lot of media attention, TV, newspapers, and so on. Well, so in Germany, the German perspective was that we were touched very much by these problems. Many parallel traders were involved, many different local GDP inspectors were involved, and this led in Germany to the establishment of a federal local DRA working group on falsifications, where BKA and customs is included, but also to a database to exchange information within Germany for falsification cases. Another case was the Luna Farm case in 2018, where a parallel importer and a wholesaler, Luna Farm, traded stolen, diverted medicinal products from Greek pharmacies. There was some cancer drugs, and we don't know what the cooling chain, if this was met. And this really led in Germany to the resignation of a Minister of Health in the state of Brandenburg, and to a reorganization of the staff in the DRAs. We got more staff afterwards, and we got more training. So let me come to the conclusions. The conclusion should be that patients should have confidence in the legal supply chain and should not worry about falsifications or stolen goods that were reintroduced. So this topic is really an important topic for the VEGGIO and for Germany. And I must say also that the theft cases were really milestones for further development of fighting falsifications, like you see the fake share and the MEDI-THEFT product, but also the things I mentioned for Germany. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks to all the participants in this session. And I'm looking at the clock. I think we are near the ideal time. Marco is looking at me and smiling. I'm handing over to him in a minute. But before that, I will have Domenico Di Giorgio speaking once again in this part of the session. Domenico, please.
Thank you, Paolo. Just trying to give the connection between the different experiences. One of the key points in the MEDI-THEFT project was to support the implementation of the tools. And I think that the experiences that were reported by the colleagues from UK and Spain are a good indication on the fact that you can set up systems for starting this kind of data gathering exercises that helps you in seeing the bigger picture regarding this kind of pharmacrime without the need for change of regulation or change of organization in your structure. So that's something that you can do, in particular, if you look at it as in the perspective of national competent authorities for medicines, because you already have formal contact with marketing authorization holder, for instance, and with the distribution, or you may have strong bonds with enforcement, like in MHRA. So you have an opportunity for setting up the data gathering that you need without having to wait for a formal change in the regulation. Moreover, the Marcos presentation was a clear indication on the possibility that you have to report your national experience at an international level. So you can have informal and formal fora like WGO, where to connect the different docs and transform the picture you see in intelligence and in operational indication. So all of this is possible without the need for change of regulation and investment, but you need to focus your activities. So thanks to all the colleagues for the presentation, because they absolutely interpreted in the right way the spirit of the MEDI-THEFT project. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, applause, please. Yes, definitely a very strong and important message, especially coming from a regulatory authority, national one for medicines in Serbia, but also there is a lot of things that we can do when you talk about not changing regulation, not investing a lot, but creating a real difference for the patients in our countries. It's definitely something that will take away to the Balkan, let's say, countries who are either present here or will learn about this in the future. That being said, I will give the floor now to Marco to lead you into the next session. Marco, please.
Thank you, Pavle. And I think that now it's the time, after having framed the problem of MEDI-THEFT, and again, thank you for the speaker for the relevant contribution and the helping in having also different perspective. The idea now is to move actually to present what has been the activities that we conducted within the MEDI-THEFT project and presenting in particular the platform. So I will start by leaving the floor to Annalisa Grifo from the Poligrafico dello Stato, that is a product manager, anti-counterfeiting and traceability solution, that will present us the main features and the, let's say, structures of the platform.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Annalisa Grifo, and as Marco said, deal with the anti-counterfeiting and traceability solution for Italian Poligrafico e Zecca dello Stato Italiano. I'm proud to say that as Poligrafico, since many years, we are already involved in fight against the pharmaceutical crime and falsification of medicines, producing the Italian bollino, the seal that you can find on all the medicines in Italy, and thus cooperating, of course, with national authorities as AIFA and the Italian Ministry of Health. Within the MEDI-THEFT project, the Poligrafico is the IT partner of the initiative, participating to the consortium constituted for the MEDI-THEFT project. And as the IT partner, we are involved in the development of the main output of this project, the MEDI-THEFT platform, of course, that is a web-based intelligence tool with the aim to collect more relevant information about event of theft, robbery, and loss of medicines, thus helping to enhance investigation against the pharmaceutical crime, and of course promoting cooperation between among all the stakeholders, thus helping also the preventing the phenomenon. So the platform is able to collect more relevant information about the pharmaceutical crimes as you can say, product specification, marketing authorization, area of the event, and some more specific information to give to raise awareness on the phenomenon and avoiding that, for example, stolen medicine could re-enter the legal market. This is an initiative that is part of the European agenda on security, on initiative that could develop specific tools to raise awareness on the phenomenon and fight against the phenomenon. And the more important benefits and opportunities that we see in this project is, first of all, that MEDI-THEFT platform could give the technology to support the circulation of information and an easy consultation of the information from all the stakeholders, private and public ones. This is a very important tool to collect data in a unique way and more structured way, more than the actual tools. And one important thing is that there is also a dedicated tool to the reporting and the sharing of this collected information. So there is also, as you can say, the opportunity to assess the operators that could be involved in the pharmaceutical supply chain. So thanks to this tool, you can directly investigate on operators and report, for example, operators that could be involved in suspicious activities. Last but not least, the platform, as we said, promote the synergy among cross-border cooperation and among all the stakeholders, thus to collaborate, to fight directly and more strongly from against this phenomenon. I now go directly to the main features that the platform offers and that you can see directly in the next session with a live demonstration of the platform. The platform has, first of all, a structure that provides 4 main modules. The first one is the event management module, so a module that is dedicated to the collection of data, but also a reporting module that is dedicated to the consultation of the such collected data, and also a monitoring module for sharing media, documents, and statistics about the phenomenon, but also, last but not least, a risk assessment modules to investigate on operators involved in pharmaceutical supply chain. So I start from the first one, that is the tool dedicated to the gathering of data. So a user of the platform could enter the platform, enter the data just in two ways. First of all, you can enter data manually, filling a form that is already structured on the platform, or downloading a form, filling it, and uploading it on the platform. There is now then a validation process. The validation process is basically guided from the national competent authorities, just to avoiding that maybe data could be duplicated, just to guarantee that the data could be always consistent and correct and not duplicated. So finally, the output of this phase is update a database immediately in order to have an easy and immediate consultation from all the stakeholders. Now just going to the consultation tool 1, so the reporting module that is already filled with some default reports that are the list of stolen and robbed medicines and the list of lost medicines. But this tool allows also to build customized reports in order to have some specific information in a way to help, of course, investigation and analysis. So all the data available on the platform are specific data on the type of the event, geographical details on the area of the theft, robbery, or loss of the medicines, but also data on the operators and specific data on the medicines. You can say marketing authorization, codes, description, batch, all the information that could help avoiding that this medicine could re-enter the pharmaceutical supply chain. Another tool is the monitoring one. With the monitoring module is a module which uses the evaluation of static and dynamic indicators in order to give the trend of the theft phenomenon and the other pharmaceutical crime. And this is the static indicators are available from the work of the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, Transcrime. And then the dynamic indicators are based, such as statistics based on the data on the platform. For example, number of theft in storage, number of theft in hospitals, and so on. Last but not least, the risk assessment module is a module based on the operators involved in the pharmaceutical market, because thanks to this tool that Marco Ducato will deepen later, because this is based on the integration between MEDI-THEFT and DataCross, that is a service from Transcrime, the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, and this gives the opportunity to the user to search specific operators, have as the output some risk indicators connected to that operator, for example, opacity or involving in suspicious activities, or report this operator as suspicious. So give an alert to this operator to be highlighted and investigated. These are the main opportunities and potentialities of the initiative, and now we go on the last configuration of the platform. The platform, of course, gives the access to the information in different way according to the authorization to specific roles. So a user could be authorized to see some different functionality in order to its role. So we have editor users that can enter data on the platform, the approver one that are basically the national competent authorities and the national agencies that can approve, as we said, all the events and all the data on the platform. The law enforcement agency role, that is a role that can see all the data on the platform. Also the admin profile, that is an admin that is responsible of the creation of users list and according to specific role, and super admin that is a poligrafico user that is responsible for the configuration of the platform. So each user can be assigned to multiple roles. For example, law enforcement agencies could be also editor user if they have the need to insert some specific data. The platform is configured to be used at the national level. So the data are entered from all the public and private stakeholders in different countries, but there is a supervision of the data at the national level. So, for example, the Italian National Agency supervises all the data collected in Italy, and so on, ALIMS and SINMEN for Serbia and Montenegro. Thank you, and now in the next session you will see a live demonstration of the platform to see directly how the platform works, and I thank you for the attention and the participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Annalisa. And now I have to introduce myself, because that's what it is, for presenting you, give you more detail about the risk assessment model. So just give me the time to go there. Okay. Hello again. The idea that we have, let's say the ambition that we have in setting up the platform is not just to having a passive repository, passive tool, but actually to have an active tool that could support analysis of the data stored, but also the counteractions, so all the investigation of, let's say, problematic situation or suspicious situation. And in specific, I think that what emerged also from previous cases and the presentation that we have this morning, we saw the importance of securing the supply chain. And how can we do, and why we have to do that? First of all, because we need to protect citizens and patients, but also we need to protect somehow also the legitimate actors that are active into the supply chain, that may be endangered by the presence of illicit or criminal actors. And this is important because what we retrieved from the analysis of the specific cases is that in many times, criminals try to infiltrate the supply chain, the legitimate economy, basically to conduct two types of activities. On the one side, to committing the fraud and the theft themselves, especially these regarding, for instance, the logistics sectors, and how, for instance, when you have to deal with subcontracting and so on and so forth, they may create fake companies or bogus company to infiltrate or pretending to be legitimate actors and then conduct theft or steal some of the products. But also, and this is another case that we saw, they may set up a bogus company to create fake documentation and then re-enter their stolen product into the legitimate channels and the legitimate supply chain. So there is really the need to enforce and to better control this kind of activity and try to identify them. So what we did is to define within the MEDI-THEFT platform, and this is of course a reserved area that is just focused for the moment to national competent authorities as law enforcement, but this is a tool that allows to make, as Annalisa was mentioned before, an in-depth analysis and investigation of companies operating either in the logistics sector or in the pharmaceutical sector, and to retrieve information coming from let's say, the characteristics of those companies and identify potential suspicious elements, suspicious characteristics. How this model is generated and based. As mentioned before, we already developed in the past two other projects, European projects on this, specifically aimed at identify anomalous, let's say anomalous characteristics of companies, and those projects were Datacross 1 and Datacross 2, which is actually already ongoing. In that case, the focus were different because it was more on the control of public bids, for instance, but still the same methodology can also be applied in the control of third parties or legitimate companies in other domains, such as the pharmaceutical one. And this is, of course, an ongoing activities we conduct internally as a research center. So the indicators that I'm going to present you are, let's say, the results of an ongoing research activities that we are doing constantly in our research center. So these are the risk indicators. Maybe it's too small to see them, but the idea is to that we try to look at different aspects, because most of the cases when you do due diligence on a company, the primary thing that you look at are, okay, there are adverse media, or okay, what's the financial solidity of the company. But there are many other aspects that you may want to look at that could potentially identify a suspicious or an infiltrated company. You can look at the complexity, for instance, of the company. So how many levels you have to reach before identify the beneficial owner of the company, which of course in some cases may be normal in some sectors, but what we did, we compare the complexity of the ownership structure of one company with the, let's say, the peers, so other companies operating in the same sectors in the same countries, and pretty much company of the same size, of course. Then you have circular ownership. These are the typical schemes used by some criminals to, highlight or hide who is behind the company. So basically you have a company that is owned by another company, which is owned by a third company, which is owned the previous one. The primary one. And of course, these are schemes that somehow you find that could identify the problem, and again, the risk of having infiltrated or company that are used for, let's say, criminal purposes. You have the opacity, as I said before, so companies that, for instance, are linked or that have within their ownership structure some opaque vehicles that does not really allow to identify who is behind that company. You have some financial indicators that does not look at the solidity, but look at the possibility that that company is actually a shell company. So it's a company that is operating only on paper, is not really let's say, and really operating one, but it's just, a company set up just to provide papers, to provide fake documentation, basically. Then we have a connection with Italian mafia presence, and this is also a quite interesting, let's say, analysis that we conduct, because we had developed this index for identify the areas of Italy that are much more connected with the presence of Italian organized crime. And in particular, it is interesting when you go outside Italy and you see, for instance, how many companies are maybe set up by people coming from very problematic or renewed municipalities that have this kind of problematic and problem. The secrecy, again, when you have a company that, for instance, is linked with countries that are usually renowned for being connected with money launderings or with other financial crime. Okay. We have the regular sectors. This is something that we developed on purpose for the risk assessment module, because in some cases we realize, and I'm going to show you a case afterwards, in which a company basically is registered to avoid the control by national competent authorities into a different NACE sectors or Ateco sectors in Italian classification. So this is basically because they want to be, to avoid very, in a simplistic way maybe, but somehow effective, to skip and avoid the controls. Or if you have a new company, so a company that had been established in a very, in a 6 months before, so it's a very new company on the market, again, it's not a problematic per se, but it maybe raises some suspicion and worth increasing the control. You have sanctions, whether that company or some of these administrators or managers have been sanctioned before or involved in some, for instance, leaks or adverse media. And also the two indicators, as mentioned before, there is a possibility for users to report a company. So for instance, if they have some suspicions about a company or some company has been involved in a previous investigation, they can, let's say, label that company as suspicious, which means that other users, for instance, authorities of LIAs from other countries that encounter that company may know that other LIAs are, let's say, doing an investigation of that companies. But also we had the last point, which is the risk links, which I think is quite important, because what we know, usually when a company is go under investigation, specifically if they are guilty, what they do, they close that company, and maybe they set up a new one. So the same people set up just a new one with a new name and start doing business as usual. In that case, we are capable to trace back that there is a link between that new company and one that was previously identified and sanctioned or, let's say, reported within the platform. So again, all of these indicators per se are not, let's say, a proof of the fact that you have you are, let's say, a criminal, but are suspicious elements that help, especially when you have to deal with a lot of companies operating. So if you have to deal with hundreds or thousands of companies, you may not have the resources, the investigative resources, to go one by one and do in deep analysis, in deep due diligence to all of them. So the idea of this module is try to, let's say, cut the tree, as we can say, so, and try to be more focused on the most potential risky places. I got somehow, it seems like the Blues Brothers think they got lights in front of me, but okay, so just to give you an idea, a practical example of this, we run an analysis of representative samples of companies operating either in the pharmaceutical sectors and in the logistics sector in Europe. So we are talking about 57,000 companies representing about 5% of the entire population of the companies operating. So quite large samples. And these are the nature code. So the sectors, as you see, we have a 3 nature code regarding the pharmaceutical sector in specific and 3 others regarding the logistic. And there are some interesting results. I've just presented one of them because, of course, I don't have time, but if you're interested, we can talk more about this. For instance, the shell company indicators. So the indicators that basically summarize the risk that the company is not an actual operating company, but it is a bogus one, a fake one. And you can see that, well, maybe you cannot see, but that on total, you have about 3% of companies that are at high or very high risk of being a shell company, meaning that up to 5 sub-indicators, they have a positive value for 4 or 5 of them, which is quite high. And those indicators are based also on some analysis made by Banca d'Italia in Italy, so are quite robust in terms of solidity. And we can also see that, unsurprisingly, the 2 nature sectors in which these shares are higher are the wholesale of pharmaceutical products and the road freight transport. So the 2 ones that, as we saw before, are probably more exposed, more at risky to actually present the presence of fake or bogus company for either producing fake documentation or conducting theft and fraud in the logistics sector. So I think that this just to make you an idea that, first of all, we are not talking about, a minor issue, so because you still have 3% is not a small numbers. If you think about how many companies we are taking into account, because all the overall sectors count for about 1 million companies all over Europe. So we are not really talking about the small countries. And also we see that there are some geographical hubs. So these companies are not located randomly across the countries, but there are some countries that, of course, have a higher share, higher percentage, and particularly most of them are located in Eastern Europe or in Malta. Unfortunately, you cannot see Malta because it's too small, but Malta is one of the highest hubs for the presence of shell companies. And this is not surprising for those of you who are maybe more, let's say, expert on financial crime and aspect, because we know that in some cases, for instance, Malta is quite renewed for money laundering or some fraud schemes connected with the infiltration of legitimate sectors and others. So this just to say that this tool can help somehow in the identification of suspicious activities and companies. Just to give you then practical examples, so real cases. This is a company, of course, the name is a fictitious one. And just to clarify, this company has not been the result of investigative activities by LIAS. So this is just something that came up from our random analysis from the sample. So this is a company that they came up suspicious to us. And this is a company set up in Romania based on the wholesale of pharmaceutical goods. And as you can see, there are several risk indicators. And you can see this is the complexity. This company is far more complex in its ownership structure than the one that we would expect in the same company with the same operating in the same sectors and in the same size. But also, if you look at specifically, this company was largely set up by Italians, and despite the participation of another Romanian company, and one of these Italians was also previously involved in some fraud insurance activities. So again, does mean that this company is criminal or these guys are criminals? No, but of course it's suspicious, and of course maybe it is worth maybe having a deep control under these companies. Another case, this is a company called Beta. Of course, the name is fictitious. The actual name has some clear reference to medicines. I don't remember if it was like drug something or medi something. And this, as you can see, this company has been incorporated, so created in 2019, but in 2022 it is already inactive. So it has a very short span. But more interestingly, this company was set up by two Italian guys coming from the area of Naples, who also set up two other identical companies named in the same way, one in Albania and another one in Italy. But interestingly, whereas the one in Hungary and the one in Albania was actually active in the wholesale of pharmaceutical product, which makes sense since you called this company Pharma or Medi or something. But the third one, the Italian one, because we know that IFA made some specific controls on companies operating in the wholesale of pharmaceuticals, is actually registered under the wholesale of food, including fish, crustacean, and mollusk, which is, let's say, an easy way to try to avoid control. And if you actually look at the location of the headquarters of that company, it doesn't really look like the one that you would expect as the headquarters of a company of that kind. Again, doesn't mean they're criminals, no. It means that there are some suspicious activities going on, probably. Last one, and this is a clear example of shell company. You see another, this is an Italian company called Epsilon. Again, Epsilon is a fictitious name. And these are the balance sheet. Okay, you don't care if you look at specifically in all the details, but just compare the numbers of the 2019-2018 are the last two available balance sheets. The numbers are exactly the same, which means they're made up. So they're not real ones. And also, if you see, of course, when you go the conto economico, no, the income and so on, they're all zero. So basically, this is not an actual company. It's not an operating company. And curiously, this company, the name of that company, is only one letter different from a large, renewed operator in the legitimate sector in Italy in the wholesaler. So again, it can be used for scam, for fraud in these operating sectors. So again, that was like an overview to try to make you understand how these information can be exploited also from an investigative point of view, and we really think that this is the way we have to look forward for this. Thank you very much. Thank you, and I take the opportunity to be here on the stage to launch the next presentation, which will be Alessandro Castagnetti from SAFE, Fondazione SAFE. He should be... Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, Alessandro, and I think you are talking about the training and the results of the training activities, and that will be the last presentation of this morning. Please, Alessandro, go.
Hi, everyone. I am sorry I'm not able to be present there, but thank you for allowing me to be online. So I'm sharing the screen. I do not know if you can see it. Can you please confirm?
No, Alessandro, we cannot see the slides. We see your face.
So let me do it again.
Okay, now it seems to work.
Can you see?
Yeah, but we see the relatore version, so not the other one.
I think it's the same.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. So, no, actually, I'm going to talk about a different activity we performed over the summer. So it was not the evaluation of the training sessions, which, by the way, went very well. Congratulations to you and the team. But instead, I'm going to talk about an exercise that we carried out over the summer about the definition of key performance indicators to be able to monitor the performance of the platform over the future, and also to propose monitoring activities in this regard. So the rationale of the exercise comes from the fact of thinking of ways to guarantee the sustainability and the long-term impact of the project, but more specifically about the platform in itself. And the idea was to start thinking about key performance indicators or measures that to objectively measure, assess, and track the MEDI-THEFT platform performance over time. And of course, the exercise also offers some considerations about how to monitor them over time. This is just a starting point, in our opinion, as more data is being inputted through the platform, as the platform is used by a higher number of users, of course, this exercise should be repeated more often because, of course, the proposed KPIs could change over time as well as including new ones and removing old ones. So the starting point of the exercise was to think about different dimensions which we believe it was relevant to monitor the platform in itself. And we thought about 4 different macro areas: platform performance from a more technical perspective, user experience relative to, of course, experience of the users of the platform. The platform uptake and use is more related to the fact of the users being active users of the platform in terms of consumption of information and data sharing. And finally, something that it has always to be present, which is that of platform security. So talking about data breaches, illegal access, and so on and so forth. The proposed KPIs, of course, need to be measurable and quantifiable because only in this way it is possible to monitor objectively a specific objective. And we follow the principle of KPI parsimony in the sense that we wanted the lowest number of KPIs to be able to track certain information about the platform. Having a long list of KPIs might be, of course, very beautiful, but it's not realistic, it's not feasible, because then it is much more cumbersome both to measure the KPIs and then to assess them. And of course, the rationale of this is that with more information about the platform performance, better choices can be made about how to maintain the platform and also whether to upgrade the platform if needed. So basically, this is the idea of the exercise was to start thinking of ways to track the platform, thinking into about future eventual upgrades if needed, of course. The first set of KPIs is that of platform performance from a technical perspective. This is important because ultimately this will influence also the user experience in the platform, but also because of that, the use of the platform. I will be very brief about these KPIs. Portal uptime, for example, means the amount of time that the platform is available for the users to be used. Of course, ideally, this should be 100% of the time. Lead time for changes is more about how much time it takes to make or incorporate upgrades into the platform. We can think of this in terms of adding, for example, certain features to the platform, certain fields, or certain new analytics, for example. And finally, the load time is more about how much time the server requires to render the page to the user. The second set of KPIs is that of user experience, which of course gauge the satisfaction of the users while they interact with the platform. There are different ways to get at this information. The most direct way would be to, for example, carry out a survey as we did regarding the training sessions directly with the users, so asking them what they think about the platform across specific topics. The good thing about this option is that you can ask exactly the users what you want to know. It is, however, more time consuming because this also implies carrying out a survey to get this information. Of course, within the platform, this could be easily achievable anyway. And on top of that, it is possible to assess the user experience by taking into account how user subjects interact with the platform. So we can think, for example, in terms of a user, for example, starting an activity, starting a task within the platform, and trying to measure how many times they started the task and completed it successfully. And that would be, for example, the task success rate. The task time instead is more about the time it takes to complete such tasks. Of course, the lower the time, the better it is. And finally, the error rate. Of course, when users, also in the case of the MEDI-THEFT platform, performs a task, they can commit mistakes. Think, for example, when users might want to upload manually the data. Sometimes errors are random, sometimes they are not, they are systematic. So understanding the type of errors that subjects do and the error rates can also, for example, inform whether to change the interface or make some small changes to the platform to prevent these mistakes from occurring in the first place. The third set of KPIs is more about the platform update and use. In fact, the MEDI-THEFT platform main goal is to provide an intelligence picture about the theft of medicines, as well as to allow for sharing of relevant information. And this basically implies that the users need to navigate the platform. So it is important to see the platform activity. On the one hand, it can be measured by taking into account the number of entities and also the number of users that are registered to the platform. But of course, this is not enough because this does not tell us anything about whether these are active or not users. So it's also important to see whether users of the platform are consuming the information from the platform and are also supplying information to the platform. And this can be measured both in terms of case inputted and users' requests. Of course, at this point of this presentation, I am simplifying the analysis, but all of these KPIs can be further studied, for example, in terms of countries, in terms of time, in terms of specific cases that are being inputted compared to other type of cases, and so on and so forth. And last but not least is platform security. Of course, it's highly relevant to track security risks and threats that the platform may be vulnerable of, and subsequently how we can we can implement actions to mitigate and respond to such threats. For the MEDI-THEFT platform, this is fundamental because, of course, of the high sensitivity of the data that is being handled. I understand that of course, the platform has been built taking into account these security aspects. Anyway, these KPIs are good to be measured because the risks and threats might be changing over time. And of course, there are always new risks over the horizon. The first KPI, in our opinion, is of course to track the number of security incidents. So we can think of unauthorized access, we can think of data breaches, and so on and so forth. But this is not enough. We also need to detect these incidents in a timely manner, so that the mean time to detect can be a useful KPI. But detection is not enough. We also need eventually to resolve the issue, and therefore we propose also the mean time to resolve KPI. Of course, defining these KPIs is not enough. Once the KPIs are defined, they also need to be measured. So computing the KPIs is fundamental. Luckily, when we speak about web applications, platforms, most of the data is already readily available. This, of course, means that automated processes can compute these KPIs easily. Of course, not all of the KPIs can be computed automatically. Some others may require some extra work from the IT team in charge of the platform. Once these KPIs are measured, a regular monitoring plan should be put in place. It's important to bring to light the strengths and weaknesses of the platform, being able to identify newer needs and requirements, and also identify trends, if possible, regarding these KPIs. The reporting, of course, is also important, how to report these KPIs. Here, I'm not going to be going into details. The idea here is that it is up to the management on whether to do it through simple tools such as spreadsheets or to go to more fancy tools like data visualizations. So this is an exercise that we carried out to start offering some insights into tangible ways to measure and monitor the performance of the MEDI-THEFT platforms. And the idea, of course, is that these KPIs should be feasible to measure and to monitor, and at the same time provide useful information to the management, to the owner of the platform. And for this reason, it proposes a very small number of indicators. However, this is a first exercise based on the experience, on the needs, on the new trends. These KPIs, the set of KPIs should change. But overall, the idea is to start thinking of KPIs definition and tracking of these KPIs to be able to collect objective information, and with this information to make better informed choices relative to the maintenance and development of the platform. And in our opinion, this can also be an important, a relevant factor guaranteeing the long-term sustainability of both the project and the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessandro. And before moving to lunch, I know that Domenico wants to say a few concluding words for this session. So, Domenico.
Thank you, Marco. I just wanted to come back to one of the points that we made before in the presentation, and I think that now that we have seen the other presentation, it is more clear what do we mean when we speak about feedback circle, because we are trying to create an added value for the users by giving them a role. So national competent authorities may gather data and improve its reliability by qualifying the information and checking the quality. So you have a specific role in building the bigger picture that is then accessible for all the users as a feedback to their contribution to the network. And the presentation of the transcribe tools is, I think, really impressive. It's a good demonstration of the power of the added value that you can generate by looking at the data in the right way. So the point for us is to create this kind of added value for everyone simply by giving back something as a contribution to the participant, to the network. So I hope that also the presentation on the specific activities in the validation of the network, of the performance of the platform was clear enough. I'm trying to show you the specific slide in which we summarize things. I hope it works. Okay, so this is the feedback circle I was referring to. So as far as you contribute to the network, you can receive value from the platform. So evaluating the performance means that we can have a tool that's tailored on the need of the users, and the user can receive back elements that they cannot have by keeping the data for themselves. So, as I mentioned, the transcrime tools are a good demonstration of the added value of the sharing of the information. So I hope that we will convince all of you that since it is not important to invest a lot of resources, but just to focus on how to use the existing resources and regulation, and that on the fact that you can receive a lot of things and the values from the platform if you contribute to the platform and to the system, I hope we will convince you that this is the right way for trying to counteract this kind of crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Domenico. We are perfectly in time, so thanks to all the speakers for helping us in be again on schedule. So we have 1 hour for lunch, and see you back at 2 o'clock.